What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of METS. Tonight is a live between myself and obviously my co-host Dan Bartels over here. Dan, since the last time we did a live, there's been a ton changing. We have everything from Clay Holmes about to win the spring training Cy Young Award. Hell, David Peterson's right behind him. Brett Beatty's OPS is over 1,100. You got the Edwin Diaz story, and then we got this bombshell supposedly coming out from Sports Illustrated in regard to the whole Juan Soto saga. So we got a lot to go over tonight. If you guys are interested in getting involved in the conversation, feel free to drop a comment below. Make sure you're subscribed, like this channel, and if you're really enjoying it, share it with a friend because that's the best way to help us grow. Dan, what's going on?
Ray, good to be with you. Good to be back. The Johnny's owning the back page every night. What a time. Hopefully they bring it home tomorrow. Should be good. But yeah, the Mets, a lot to talk about there. A lot of good things. And 6 days away from opening day. Can't wait.
Yeah, so let's get the first topic that I would love to address. And my God, and Dan, you know I said this, and it's on record, it's on video. I'm going to pull it up, and I may be wrong as all hell. Let me pull this up really quick, so that way there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But let's take a look at our friend, Clay Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my God, look at these spring training stats. 19 and a third, 7 hits, 2 runs, 8 walks, 23 strikeouts. And let's not forget, Clay Holmes is not a strikeout guy. Now, some people are going to say, well, it's because of nobody's seen that kick change yet. Nobody's seen the kick change. I understand that perspective, but it's freaking great to see. Think about it. David Stearns got this guy for 3 years on the cheap, showing out in spring training. His velocity's up, the kick change, the sinker's sinking. And I seen somebody send this to me the other day through a DM, and they said, here's a short video of all the blown saves of Clay Holmes over the last couple years. And more than half of them, Anthony Volpe's booting a ball. The left fielder's dropping in the left field. Someone's not covering second base. Ground ball to Rizzo. Holmes is covering the bag, and Rizzo never flips it over. Like it seemed like there was so much defensive mistakes made behind him. And no, it's not excusing a poor ERA, but you got to take that into consideration, don't you?
Yeah. No, you do. And people, we all know was a reliever on the Yankees. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as he is on the Mets, but he's a lot less stressed, I could imagine. Lindor is clearly not Anthony Volpe. There's way better fielders now behind Clay Holmes too, which I think is going to help him. And what did he go today? 5 1/3. So he's already getting good amount of innings under his belt, and he looks really good, Ray. So really encouraging. Kick change is money. The vertical break on the thing is unreal. And if he continues to throw that for strikes, it's going to be a long season for the rest of the league.
Yeah, and you know what? It reminds me of a little bit? Obviously, he didn't have the success that Clay had coming out of the pen, but remember when the Mets initially brought up Mike Pelfrey, the hard sinker, where all of a sudden defense actually plays a role? Because it feels like every prospect we ever bring up, the hard thrower K guys, the Matt Harveys, the Syndergaards, the Steven Matz, the Zach Wheelers, even now you have the Christian Scott strikeout pitcher, Brandon Sprode about to come up, strikeout pitcher, Jonah Tung hitting 98 miles an hour on the gun, strikeout pitcher. It's very rare. I don't want to say rare, but it's less likely to see guys like Clay Holmes where they go through their entire career being more of that sinker ball type pitcher where he's not necessarily seeking swing and miss, which he was lucky to get this spring, but he's more than happy to let his defense do the work for him. And that's why, we could pivot into our next segment if you want to, unless you have another comment on this.
Well, and I think more ground balls because the Mets clearly told Vientos, hey, we want you to work on your lateral range. We want you to be able to move side to side. More ground balls, the hot corner, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to make Vientos a way better fielder very quickly, or it's going to expose his inefficiencies very quickly, and he's going to find himself in a worse situation. I obviously hope it's not the latter, but you do worry about those things. But the ground balls, they're going to be coming with Clay Holmes. So be ready for them if you're an infielder for the Mets.
And that's what's going to bring me into our next segment. And I know we've debated over this a lot, but I think it's now more clear than ever, the second base position battle. Obviously, Jeff McNeil would have been the starter for the New York Mets, but let's be honest, Dan, nobody saw Brett Baty having an 1100 OPS throughout spring. I mean, here are his updated numbers, and I'll pull them up for us really quick. Here are his updated numbers. 48 at-bats. He's hitting 354, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. But this is the big stat you can't ignore. An 1123 OPS. That's insane. And it's not like Acuna has an 800, 900 OPS. His OPS, last I checked, was like right at 600. To me, and I know it's tough because if Clay Holmes is going to be your opening day starter, you probably want to throw the defense out there, right? And there's no doubt that Acuna is a better defender, but Brett Baty has hit his way into a starting spot in this lineup. Yeah, and I don't think there's anything outside of that anybody could say.
The OPS is real. Leading the Grapefruit League, that's always good. Again, it's always that delineation. Do we put a lot of stock into what Brett Baty's doing or do we not because it's spring training? I'm putting stock into it, Ray. I agree with you completely. Like, he has earned the role. If we were sitting here on March, whatever it is, 21st, and it's 6 days to go before spring training's over and Brett Baty's still hitting 250 and the OPS is, 700, like, I don't know if it would move the needle like we're talking about now. So, again, he was the difference even in today's game. 2-run home run, 3-2 win. That's what you want to see. And I think he's really solidifying his case, and we're going to see probably a platoon between him and Acuna.
Yeah, you know what? I actually have Acuna's numbers right here because I know, maybe not right now, because a lot of our people who watch us live enjoy our content. The hate is going to come. So let me, for the sake of fairness, pull up Luis Angel Acuna's spring. It is god awful. Just you can't. His OPS is in the 500s, 544. He only has 3 less at bats than Baty. No home runs, 4 RBIs. Yes, he's got the 3 steals, but Brett Baty's hitting almost 350. Acuna's hitting under 250. But this is the big issue. That 277 OPS, and you and I both know what that means. The same thing he struggled with in the minor leagues last year, he is striking out a ton. It's the only way you could see it. And we watched him in AA and AAA last year mightily struggle before coming up. And a lot of people want to give him credit, and I give him credit where credit's due. He had a solid postseason for the New York Mets and a solid down the stretch run, but that's last year. You can't live in the past. And one thing David Stearns has proven, and I think you'll agree with me, he takes the emotion out of these decisions. And I actually think there's a real chance that Acuna doesn't even start the year with the team, and he starts out in AAA getting full-time at-bats because they got to develop this kid. To me, he is just simply not ready.
Yeah, there's 2 spots up for grabs for at least a month until McNeil's back. You have second base, which I think will go to Baty, but there is a real case too that you need a utility guy too, and Baty kind of fits the utility role better given because he can play third base, you can move Vientos to first base. You can't really do that with Acuna. You can put him at third. He's gotten reps in spring training, but I don't know if he's shown the Mets enough to put him at third base in a crunch situation, down 1 in the 9th or something like that. Like, I think Baty having both on the team is probably what they're going to do. And now there's a spot open. There wasn't that case before with McNeil in the mix. It always felt like, all right, Acuna, you're probably going to be in AAA. If the Mets can get him enough at bats, he'll definitely be up. But to your point, I think you're right. The only reason he wouldn't be up is if they can't guarantee him those at bats. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think they want to develop him. I want to get some of these comments really quickly, guys. If you want to join the conversation, feel free to comment. Love interacting with you guys, going back and forth. Give us your ideas. So let us know who you think should be at the back end of the bullpen, or make your case for Brett Baty or Acuna. So we have this from Jonathan. Jonathan, shout out to you, my guy. Thanks for checking in. What's going on, Ray and Dan? Diddy, of course. Yo, yo, yo. The elephant from Nelson, the elephant in the room, in a good way, is every time I look another prospect throwing 99 or more, love it. And I agree. Who's that guy that they interviewed? I did a post on him. I feel ridiculous that I can't remember his name. But he was talking about last year at Oklahoma before the New York Mets drafted him. He was throwing 102 miles an hour.
Oh, what's his name? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. But crazy. No, you're right.
Yeah, you
And
got, and another thing too, and we were talking about it this past offseason.
Lambert, was it?
Say it again.
Was it Lambert?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Jonah Tung was really a 93, 94 type guy. And then we saw him hit, what was it, 97 and a half, or was it 98 and a half? Something right around there. It was in the high 90s. And people are like, whoa, that's not what we're used to seeing. But that's what a pitching lab does. And Joe DeMayo said it on the Mets pod, who we actually had Joe DeMayo on here not too long ago. Really good. I'll make sure to clip that at the end of this or put the link in the description to that video if you're interested in hearing about a lot of our prospects. But he was talking about how the New York Mets are starting to get that reputation of becoming a pitching factory. There's a reason why they did not let Jeremy Hefner walk after getting rid of Buck Showalter and coming into this new regime. And then you hear about the pitching lab, and this is something that David Stearns did time and time and time again while he was in Milwaukee. And we're starting to see it here. And it's very exciting to see, because although it is very nice to get every single top free agent, it is not sustainable over the long term. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Dan and Ray, what about the Dodgers? It's easy to say that with the Dodgers right now. The Dodgers have Ohtani for another 9 years, and he's what, 31? So the last 5 years when they're paying him, probably with this new collective bargaining, when they get rid of all this deferral payment stuff, $70 million a year, that could come back to bite them. Same thing with Freddie Freeman. They have Mookie Betts on an extremely long-term contract. You have, who knows what Yamamoto is going to be in 14 years, a pitcher.
Right.
That's something to take into consideration. So although it's nice to spend like they do, they also have the number 3 or 4 ranked farm system according to Baseball America. So that's something that's got to be taken to consideration. We got this from Phil. Let's go Mets. Sharon, thanks for chiming in. Can Beatty sing OMG? That would be cool. Let's go Mets.
That's funny.
You know, we have this. I'm sorry, BXNYM. So I guess that's Bronx, New York Met, maybe, or Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. No, Bronx.
Yeah.
Beatty has a whole different approach at the plate, so this could be, I agree, very well real. You know what? One thing that I think, Dan, I would love to get your perspective on this. All we heard last year was from the New York Mets organization, we want Brett Beatty to lift the ball. He puts the ball on the ground way too much. And I feel when you're telling a player that mid-season, you're almost asking him to change his approach, change his swing path. That's something that gets done in the offseason. And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to see him take the ball into the gap the other way. And when someone misses inside, he took it, 109.5 miles an hour off his bat. It shows you. That's why the Mets drafted him in the first round. That's why he was widely regarded as the number 1 hit tool in that draft. And the only reason he was not drafted higher is because when he was a senior in high school, he was 19 when everyone in that class was 18. Otherwise, he would have been a top 6 pick. That's what I was told. But let me know what your thoughts are.
No, you're right. And definitely he changed his swing a lot. He's keeping his hands in more for longer, which is helping him have more power, helping him get under the ball. It's good. It's refreshing. It's encouraging. It is something that I think many Mets fans, whether we wrote off Beatty or not, because I'll raise my right hand, I did. I had Mark Vientos as the third baseman. Everyone said you're crazy, but now it's coming back. Karma's coming back now where Brett Beatty is the one who's emerging, and all you have to do is just be happy for him. And he's going to be a spot on this team. And for how long, that's a whole nother question. But the swing has definitely improved. And he's earned a spot on this Mets team.
And Dan, I almost think his defense has improved in just these last couple of games.
Sure.
Starting to see him make the plays in the hole. You know,
he's great.
I just, you know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at.
Real quick too on the pitching, because like it's great seeing Jonah Tong, and for anyone who watched the spring breakout game, it was great seeing like guys like Pintaro, guys like Santucci. Tong started the game, looked great. That's a sign of a good farm system, good pitching development that we always talk about. And
Right.
quickly too, like Lambert's throwing 102, Matt Allen's throwing 99 on the
How
backfield too.
about Matt Allen,
Yeah,
baby?
so that's encouraging, but it does raise that question: is it good for a guy who's coming back from so many surgeries? And I'll ask you, Ray, is that good for a top prospect who's coming back from all these surgeries to be throwing 99?
Well, how old is he right now?
23.
It feels like he should be 40.
Yeah, it's been a long time
It
coming.
really does. But I'll say this: he hasn't thrown a professional inning since what?
Right.
2019.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking it's going on 5 full seasons. I agree with you. Maybe it's not smart to throw 99, but I will say this: he knows the clock's ticking.
Sure.
Could he be, dare I say, our future Luis Heel? A guy who was injured his entire minor league career finally makes it to the majors with the Yankees. And at what was he, 25, 26 last year?
Mm.
And he wins Rookie of the Year. Jacob deGrom didn't come up with the Mets until he was 25 years old. Maybe he's a late bloomer. But like what you're saying, we have all these flamethrowers, which is good. But you know how you know things are going good for you? What is one topic that has kind of settled down where fans are just accepting it what it is right now? And that's Brandon Sproat. Remember at the beginning of the spring training, all we kept hearing is Sproat needs to come up now.
Sure.
Even with Manaea going down, hopefully he comes back soon. But if Clay Holmes is able to pitch at the top, and I see Phil's comment right here, Clay's going to be our ace this season, which I posted earlier. And I said, I went out on a limb and I told Joe DeMayo, I said, I think there's a chance he becomes an all-star for us this year. That's how high I am on him. I feel he was not used properly. People go, well, look at him as a starter in Pittsburgh. That was a long time ago. And let's compare staffs in Pittsburgh to here. I'm talking pitching coach wise. Do they have the lab? Do they have the credibility of turning around a Luis Severino or a Sean Manaea, getting those guys paid? I mean, that's something that we have to take into consideration. So I'm looking for a big year from Clay Holmes. I really am.
Definitely. I think he's going to be a horse, Ray.
From Torres, the Dodgers were doing the same thing 3 or 4 years ago. I agree. And let's not forget, when Steve Cohen initially bought the team, we were supposed to be like Dodgers East. And I'm going to tell you this. You guys want to see Steve Cohen spend even more? Watch this casino project get approved. He's going to make more money than ever.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Throwing parlays at the casino to go to a Mets game and have that be the last leg that loses. But no, it should be a good summer. I'm excited. And it's going to take a couple years for this stuff to come together, Metropolitan Park. But that's kind of what we're building towards, Ray, as Mets fans. We know it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
Well, Mets fans that expect a World Series in 2025, like, sure, it can happen. But there's a lot of things that have to go right for that to happen. It's not like we've built a juggernaut team, and like to the point before, 3-4 years, it takes a long time. So
right.
We'll see.
And what's good is Soto only being 26 years old.
You
know what Soto did? And I see MC, I'll get to your comment in a second. What Soto did for this franchise told me we are going to go for it every single season, because you're not paying someone that kind of money to not. And what's good is there's still flexibility coming up even after this year. Think about this, Dan. Let's take I know the season hasn't even started yet, but it's always fun to take a look into the future. You have Pete Alonso's $30 million coming off the books. Starling Marte's $21.5 million. That's $51.5 million on 2 guys coming off the books next year. You could do a lot with that. Let's see. And another prospect who they were going over on the Mets pod, who I've been screaming about since we got him. I was so excited for that Verlander trade. And I knew right away. I said it right away. I said the blue chip in this deal is not Drew Gilbert. It is Ryan frickin' Clifford.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about raw power? And a lot of people are like, oh, he's just a future Pete Alonso. Look how much he strikes out. He's 21 years old. Wait till this is the year where he should be taking that jump. And if he does, that's what's going to breed sustainable success as the New York Mets, because you can't have $30 million players at every position. If you have a Mark Vientos making next to nothing and Marte's gone, and dare I say Ryan Clifford somehow takes over for Pete Alonso, and let's just say, and I think there's a good chance it happens, either Acuna or Beatty in 2026 will be the starting first baseman. You get rid of that last year McNeil's $15 million contract. That's $65 million right there. You could do some real damage. You still have to figure out what's going on in center field, whether Drew Gilbert or Jet Williams is going to take over there. But think about this. There's going to be free agents out there, and then you have prospects presumably at every position just about ready to take over now. Drew Gilbert's 24 years old this year. So it's really exciting to see. We have this from MC. If Beatty continues this trajectory, is he a trade candidate for a pitcher? I'll let you take that first.
There's a real chance, yes. I don't say that lightly. We've floated this for months now. It feels like even some of us years we've wanted Beatty off the books. I get it. Now he's starting to show you something. I just think the Mets, given the month that he's going to have it at the most, if he proves it after that month and he's still hanging around, and then McNeil comes back and continues to show for some reason he's still Jeff McNeil, then it puts pressure back on Brett Beatty. But as of now, I don't know, because there is a need for him. You do need that lefty bat off the bench in the ninth inning. You do need that utility guy to, that can play third base, as we talked about before. I think that's an important thing. And what are you going to trade him for, too? If you're going to tell me it's for a bigger deal, like a Sandy at the trade deadline, by all means. I just don't know if it would be for a reliever. But I'd go after a big market guy for Beatty and, Pena you could throw in the mix. You want to throw Tidwell in the mix. If we're talking a Sandy Alcantara, then yeah, I would definitely go after someone like that.
I think he's going to eventually be a New York Met. But I'll say this.
Real quick, is it Alcantara or Alcantara? I've heard two different. I think it's Alcantara. But,
it is
right, okay. Just making sure.
I think I looked up, let's see what his contract is remaining on Spot Track. I have it right here.
3 years,
Let's take a peek. Because obviously that gets taken into consideration. I believe he's got next year and then a team option. Here we go. All right. So he's got this year, next year, and then a club option for $21 million at age 30. When I look at pitchers that belong in David Stern's team, he's the guy. 3 years and you say sayonara. That is a David Stern special. And I don't know if the rumors are true or not. Maybe I should reach out to somebody who covers the Marlins. I almost said Dolphins. But supposedly they've loved Brett Beatty for years. He's been a guy they've been very high on, but that might have been the old regime. Right. But I will say this. And maybe let me know what you feel, Dan, because I mean you're around the team more than I am. I almost feel like the New York Mets have been looking for McNeil's replacement for the last 2 years. I don't think they want him on this team. I don't think the executive management typically is enamored with him. I don't. I think if they found a trade partner, they would obviously entertain it. So maybe if Brett Beatty plays well enough, maybe McNeil comes back and takes on that Ben Zobrist role. He's not making $25 million a year. He's making $12.5 million a year, $15 million a year, right in between there. And we've seen McNeil play left, right, third, second, and even we heard Carlos Mendoza say just a couple weeks ago that he feels comfortable if he had to spell Lindor over at shortstop. So he could prototypically play 5 positions for you, 4 of them pretty damn well. So maybe he becomes that super utility guy. Him and Jesse Winker against a tough righty. You want to go all left-handed. You could sit Mark Vientos and have McNeil at third or Beatty at third, McNeil at second. You could load. We always hear about teams loading up against the lefty. You load up righties. The New York Mets literally have a shot to load up Jesse Winker, Nimmo, Soto, Beatty, McNeil, Lindor as a switch guy. You could have an entire lineup full of lefties, and if they bring a righty in later in the or lefty in later in the game, you would then have the Martes coming off the bench and the Vientos is coming off the bench. This team is so ridiculously deep, but I think that's probably where the Mets would go if Beatty's killing it, or even dare I say he's hitting 260 with 2 home runs when he comes back, but his OPS is, mid sevens. I think they're going to leave Beatty at second base. The changing of the guard is starting to happen. I've gotten that sense from anybody that I've spoken to around the team for a while. Let me know your thoughts.
A lot of stuff there. I think one, you laid it out great. Both sides of it, they both have to play well. Like if Beatty wants to save himself, then you just outplay Jeff McNeil. If Jeff McNeil wants his spot back, he's going to outplay Brett Beatty when he's back. So the original plan, from what I understand, was that McNeil, if he was healthy going into the year, he was the starting second baseman, as we all understood. Beatty would have been the guy that he can go to second base in a pinch, put McNeil with his outfield experience into left field to help out Nimmo if he's injured. Obviously, you can't do that right now. That's why it's tricky. If Beatty could just learn the outfield, he has a place maybe for the next couple of years with the Mets, because then it's like there's a real value there. It's like, all right, now you can really fill in for Jeff McNeil. At this point, I think we saw the changing of the guard last year when, we see the freak injury to Jeff McNeil. He goes down. We see Iglesias come up and he just completely rear view mirror, and we never really think about Jeff McNeil ever again. Same thing with Acuna. So the tricky thing is, if you're pairing just Acuna and Beatty, Acuna's the better fielder. Don't think so much into it, because
it's not even close.
No, it's not. And that's where Acuna has the slight advantage. And in the end, I think that's why he does still make the team. And one more thing, he's really the last Met he's the only Met at this point that you can have a pinch running threat. Last time I checked, Jet Williams isn't a Met right now. There aren't really many speed demons on the bases.
Well, Marte, I guess, depending on the knee.
Sure.
But, do you really want that?
Yeah, but that's really it. So there's value for both of them. I think you're going to have both on the team to begin the year. And as Tim Britton said, I think in The Athletic this week, it's going to be a platoon. That remains to be seen, but I think that's where they're leaning.
And if it's going to be a platoon, you're going to see way more of Beatty.
Sure.
And maybe a late game replacement, something like that.
But Acuna would start opening day with Framber on the mound and Marte as the DH and everything.
Right.
So.
One thing that's I keep thinking of, if the New York Mets did not want to go young like we're talking, they would have brought back Jose Iglesias. They had every opportunity to. McNeil going down, you have the injury there. The perfect excuse was in line there. And then when you hear the New York Mets trying to go young at that position, to me, that kind of forecasted one of these kids is going to be the starter. And that's why I feel if one of them takes off, Brett Beatty, Jeff McNeil is going to be that super utility guy. They're trying to replace him. Because think about this, Dan. Say McNeil's healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me you would have these guys up here to ride the bench? I don't see it that way.
Maybe one of them, if that, because
maybe Beatty because he's 25.
Acuna, no chance. They wouldn't be able to have Acuna up here. Now that McNeil's not here, you can kind of say, all right, no matter what situation arises, we can kind of have Acuna get playing time, which is pretty cool. But until McNeil comes back, he's going to get probably sent down to AAA again, and fans are going to be upset. But it's for the betterment of him and the team, because his trade value does not tank if he goes to AAA. With Brett Beatty, it would.
100%. Phil says it's a great day in Mets land. Nelson, Clay, Cy Young, Francisco, or Juan MVP. Look, you're already watching Ohtani go off over there. It's real interesting to see what happens with this Dodgers team. I mean, they might win 120 games. It's just
they look
absolute
good.
Savages out there.
They look good.
Just call him Sandy, Nelson says. MC says, appreciate the thoughts. It's good to see a guy, Beatty, accrue value in our system and possibly become a chip to an upgrade. Alcantara would be huge. Didn't Sandy come back and he was bad last year?
Yeah, but then you see him this year, he's up to 99, 100. He faced the Mets early on. Like, I think he's going to be on a pitch limit or innings limit, some variation
But
of
that
it.
might be, I think that's imposed by the Marlins,
Marlins for
right?
sure,
It's not.
for sure. They want to showcase him, Ray, and then trade him the second they can.
I agree. And you know what? When I think about it more and more, because, obviously we're a Mets account, but I get plenty of Yankee hate. They all think he's a lock to be a Yankee. And I keep looking at these farm systems and I'm like, bro, you guys are ranked 29th per MLB.com. It's not happening. Sandy and Sanga from Sharon.
Sandy and Senga. That's a nice ring to it, right? And Sproat, Triple S.
Yeah, there you go. Stanley, thanks for checking in, Stanley. Holmes has pitched impressively. Clearly. I think, look, I hope this carries over because if it does, it gives you more momentum at the break, especially, at the trade deadline. Because if he doesn't work out, I'm definitely a non-believer in Frankie Montas. I've been a non-believer in him for a while. I think he's injury prone. I actually don't think he's really that good when he's healthy, but I got to give David Stearns the benefit of the doubt. Clay Holmes working out could change his whole rotation with Mania, Peterson, and Sanga. If Holmes turns out to be a really solid starter, maybe they go for it and get that one legitimate front end guy at the deadline, and it changes everything.
I think they will. And I don't even need to text anyone to kind of tell you. I think the Mets know that to the point we have before, they're in a winning position. If they're hanging with the Braves and they're hanging with the Phillies, it's the trade deadline. It's like looking like 2015 all over again. Instead of getting the big bat, they'll go out and get a big arm. And Sandy would be the one. We floated Jake. Nobody wants to hear it, and I get it. But Sandy would be the one at this point that you'd want to
Especially
target.
with that contract. You have
Right.
him, you have until he's 31, then you say see you later. So
Right.
the folks over at SNY had this video tonight talking about Clay Holmes and Brett Beatty, whether or not they'd be able to carry over their performance into the regular season. Let's give it a peek.
It is still hard for me to believe that Clay Holmes is going to be the Mets opening day starter. Dave, have you seen enough to feel good about Holmes as a starter?
Yeah, that's the part I don't think we get talked about enough, Sal. Last year's Yankees closer is now the Mets opening day starter. Like, we toss it around like it's like a no big deal, but it's a big deal.
Doesn't that sound like a Tampa Bay Rays kind of thing, Dan?
Yeah.
Like the Rays would be all over that.
Right.
I mean, this guy was a relief pitcher, he started out as a starter in Pittsburgh, then became a relief pitcher, then became a very good one as a closer. The problem I have here, listen, he's been lights out in spring training, sub-1 ERA, 23 strikeouts, and I think 19 innings. He's done everything he's needed to do through 88 pitches today. The problem I have is taking the jump in workload. I know at a relief pitcher, you go multiple days, starter, you have days off in between. But, he threw 63 innings last year, guys. Now he's going to be asked to go, I don't know, 150 maybe if he goes a full season. How do they pace that out? How do they make sure he stays okay? When can we think he's going to start running out of gas? I mean, is he going to start feeling it like midway through May? So that's the concern. How do they manage him correctly? So far, he's been fine. It's late March. The games hasn't even started yet. So I think that's a concern.
I'm with you on that, Dave. In fact, I wonder if Met fans out there have thought about the idea that Clay Holmes, what if he throws 125 pretty good innings? That would be a hugely successful season in my mind for him in his transition to starting. And that doesn't sound like a great year from a starter, but we're in the age where, if you get 100 innings from a few guys, then you are among the teams that make the playoffs. The Mets had 4 guys who had more than 120 innings last season. So, if you're thinking Clay Holmes is a 220 inning kind of guy, throwback ace, pump the brakes on that a little bit. That being said, there's some real excellence potential here from him. And if it's a short amount of a lower amount of innings than we're used to thinking that a starter delivers, then that's something that the Mets are going to have to work through with their 6-man rotation, their starting depth, all that kind of stuff. But I think Clay Holmes has potential to be really good.
Yeah, he may have ace-like stuff, but he can't be an ace because he's not going to be going deep into these games, nor would I.
Well, let me ask you, Dan, what aces do go deep into games? How many guys had 100? How many guys pitched 190 plus innings last year? You could count them on a few hands.
Correct.
Those days are over. How many is Blake Snell considered an ace? I'd say so. How many times does he make it past the 4th inning or 5th inning? I mean, that's the new age of baseball.
Jacob deGrom, Zach Wheeler have combined for 8 complete games in their careers combined. Tom Seaver in his career, 231 complete games. It is a reminder, Ray, that mentalities are different.
Right.
The medicine is different. The technology is different. I don't think it's good for the game. I want a pitcher, if I'm a coach, to go out there and give me 9, but I get times have changed. But it's unfortunate. Not many pitchers go deep. You're right.
I have him, especially early on, going deep into these games. So you expect a 5-inning pitcher, and then that's not going to be covered up now because of the injuries to Manaea to start, and obviously Montas not there. Holmes goes from potentially being a 4-5 guy who maybe the Mets could work in to being the opening day starter.
But just because he's the opening day does not make him the one. For me, David Peterson and
Oh,
Kodai
no.
Senga are in front of him in
For
this
sure.
rotation.
Yeah.
How about Brett Beatty, Dave? He has had a monster spring. Is this finally the year Beatty carries it over to the regular season?
Now, it depends on one thing. I mean, can the Mets pull a Rays and play their home games at Clover Park?
Look at that.
Beatty's
Rays.
unstoppable down in Port St. Lucie. I think that's the problem here, guys. This guy has all the physical talent and the ability. We see it every year in spring, but as soon as he shows up in Flushing, he's a different guy.
It's a
I don't know
mental
if the
thing.
confidence is shattered at that point, the self-doubt creeps in. Listen, if he had the attitude of a Mark Vientos, I mean, this guy could be a star. I mean, Vientos is unfazed by that type of stuff. He's ready.
And he's so right, Dan. That's why I'm so nervous to trade him. What if we do trade him to Miami and then he blossoms into 280 and 25? You tell me you can't see that?
I could. I think it's unlikely, but I could.
Right. Well, of course.
It's not how Beatty comes into the game. So I think it's all about the adjustment. He's entering his 4th year now to see. He's not young anymore. He's 25. So he has some experience. It's all about him getting comfortable and confident at the major league level. That's the last jump to make here, I think.
Yeah, I love the swing here and always have, but you're right, Dave, the results at the major league level have not been there, and he needs to sort of burst through whatever barrier is in front of him. I will say this, that I was down in Met camp last weekend, and I was eager to see him playing second base because I did not think that was something that they should be pushing real hard. He looks to be more of a corner type guy physically, but I was surprised at the comfort that he showed there, and he's been playing even better, I think, on defense this week. So look, some guys don't figure it out immediately. And you're right, he's 25 years old now. Development, as they always say, not a straight line for everyone. So maybe this is the year. But you're right, he's got to stop being a spring training star and then the guy who gets sent to Syracuse, and then you're seeing grainy highlight videos on social media of him tanking one 480 feet out of there in the gray weather in Syracuse. He's got to produce at the major league level, and it looks like the Mets are going to give him a chance.
Let's make the call to the bullpen and welcome in John Hine. All right, Hine, which statement is more surprising, Clay Holmes opening day starter or Brett Beatty potential opening day
Mr.
second
Negative
baseman?
Mets here.
I mean, you guys gave all the details, but they're both sort of shocking in their own way. Holmes, I know, was supposed to be a starter, became a great reliever. Now with injuries, I've kind of had a little time to sort of digest the fact that he's going to be the opening day starter. So my vote's going to go to Beatty. I mean, look, he's been the best 4A guy the Mets have had in years, and you just wonder when that's going to translate into the major leagues. They tried to give him the third base job. He didn't take it. Vientos, as Dave just said, played with unbelievable confidence, and now that's his. So to me, that's the bigger surprise, seeing him at second base. We know what during spring training he can do it, but guess what, guys? Spring training doesn't mean a darn thing. That goes for Holmes and his numbers too. You like how they look trend-wise, but when it comes to surprise, I did not see Brett Beatty being penciled in at second base for this New York Mets team. I just didn't see it. Holmes, I knew was going to start. Opening day, yes, it's a surprise, but considering what the injuries are, it makes a lot of sense to see what he can do. So my vote would be for Brett Beatty.
What are your takeaways from that?
I mean, if anyone is surprised at an opening day starter, I think they have their priorities in the wrong place. I think it's just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the opening day starter is. And I think we as fans, Ray, we get lost up in that because it's just fun banter. It's like the lineup construction in the offseason. Right. The surprise is Brett Beatty. The surprise is that he's doing it against decent, spring training arms. It's not, again, MLB. We're not the end of April making these assumptions about him. We're kind of just seeing how it goes, but it's really good. And he's been a real surprise.
I agree. We got this from Stan from Westport. Clay Holmes showed up in an amazing shape and looks like one of the fittest athletes in MLB. I'd say Cy Young contention is more likely than running out of gas. I'm not going to be naive. I think that he's going to be a strict innings limit kind of guy. That's what would take him out of being in Cy Young contention. Maybe, just maybe, the Mets stick around long enough and say, you know what, Clay, you're getting towards your innings limits. We're going to throw you in the bullpen the last third of the season. You're going to help us dominate out there. We're going to go get a guy like Sandy Alcantara, and we're going to add him to this rotation because let's be honest, I love what I see out of Daniel Nunez. Obviously, you got Minter back there, Edwin Diaz. There is cause for concern. I'm not going to say there's no concern. There's a little bit of concern from me. Even former New York Met Trevor May had talked about it. He's got that big podcast. He did an interview talking about the dip in velocity, saying that everybody in the major leagues now sits at 94. That's not, he's got to be around those triple digits. It was good to see it tick up a little bit. Obviously, when the adrenaline's involved, hopefully that's going to change things as well. But you might need another arm out there. What's going to happen with Brazoban this year? How is Jose Budo going to be? Is Blackburn, who I think is going to end up starting the season in the bullpen, how are they playing out? Is Budo going to be Budo of last year, or is he going to get knocked around like he's been knocked around a little bit in this spring training? It's all up in the air.
Yeah, no, it is. And Clay Holmes is just going to settle in. The bullpen is going to be decent enough. I'm not too worried. I just want to get these guys healthy. I want to have Mania back. I want to be cooking with grease. Like, I'm ready to go. And it's just, I don't care about Montas either. You're 100% right about that. Like, he might opt out at the end of this year. If he pitches decent enough on the back half of this season and he says, all right, I'm gone, it could easily happen. A little note today, our good old friend Dom Smith opted out of his Yankees so he's hitting free.
Did they try to send him down? Is that what happened?
No, he had to make a decision today about something in his contract, whether he was going to opt out or not. And he had a pretty good enough spring. So he said, all right, I'm going to hit free agency, and he's on the market. So
don't you think he's got to have something in mind? Opt out. I mean, if there's anywhere to play, it'd be the damn Yankees. Goldschmidt's 400 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the parking back.
Really is crazy.
Talk about another Mets first round bust.
But I wouldn't get so, overhyped about Brett Beatty. I think we all, know what he is. We're excited to see him, but we understand that this could burn out very quickly. But we can't say in the end that we didn't give him a chance. That's all.
Right. And I'm still not sold that if he doesn't work out this year, that they're not going to try to trade him and leave him in AAA. There's going to be an organization out there that thinks they could fix him. I mean, you heard them just talk about it then. He's probably one of the greatest quadruple A guys that I think I've ever seen. And is it going to translate? That is, everything. And usually eventually it does. And one good point was not everybody does have a straight up trajectory. You do see some guys blossom later in their careers. We've seen it a few times throughout MLB, especially pitchers, obviously in the bullpen, but we've seen it before. I mean, Jose Iglesias had probably the greatest year of his career last year. Was he 33 years old? It happens. It happens.
It's going to pass him by. I'm just worried that Mauricio's definitely coming. And if we're being completely honest, Mauricio's the better pick. He could play second. He could play third. He could play the outfield.
He's a pure athlete.
Oh, yeah. So Beatty's watching. He's definitely he's aware of what's going on.
And I think that's what Beatty, the talent's there. It's all a mental thing.
It is.
I was down there at spring training. I was there when it was sold out, and I'm looking around. And I'm like, all right, there's a few thousand people here. Nobody's booing anyone. Nobody, everybody's watching, but no, obviously when the big guys are up, but nobody's crazy engaged. But then opening day happens. There's 40,000+ with standing room at Citi Field. Now the expectations are higher than ever with Juan Soto. You got Kodai Senga back. You just came off a really good run within 2 games of the World Series. The hype's around the team. You see your owner coming out and Steve Cohen saying, we've sold 3 times the amount of tickets that we sold all last year already. And this was around Christmas time. The pressure's going to be there all over again. It just is.
The pressure's there. And whether we got Soto or not, unfairly or not, the Mets would have had pressure anyway to make the playoffs, just given that they went to the NLCS. Now it feels like the pressure's on us to win the division. which is pretty cool. But it's also like, all right, the stakes are higher now. We got to go out there, and a lot of Mets fans are going to be upset if they don't win 90 games. There's going to be a large majority that says it's a failed season if we're a wild card team and we get kicked out.
Well, what is your
you are
minimum amount
fortunate.
of wins?
Well, I think most Mets fans kind of see that we're very fortunate to be a playoff team now consistently. I think that's pretty good for the majority, but we want to see the ring. We want to see the World Series. It's coming, but you got to get a few years of winning. Look at what the Dodgers did. It didn't happen overnight, and it usually never does.
Right, I agree. All right, everybody, it's been about 45 minutes. We're going to cut it here. I hear my baby screaming upstairs, so I got to go tend to her. I appreciate everybody sticking around. Dan, thanks so much for coming in.
As always.
Next week, we'll be doing more lives. I had one of our guests cancel on us. Unfortunately, these late night spring training games are killing us with our guests. So I'll be working on some people. We'll be having some people on during the off season or the off days. I know Pat Ragazzo is going to be coming on. I spoke to Mike Puma. He'll be coming on again shortly. And yes, I'm hoping to have Terry Collins on very shortly. Was talking to him and his partner this past week. Actually, it was this past Friday. So it was about a week ago from today. They want to come on. They got some stuff going on. They are doing their podcast once again this year. Shout out to John Arazi and Terry announcing that. Tunnel to Towers is their sponsor. Love that. And they're going to be doing it again this year. So we'll be sure to try to get them on for you guys. But until next time, as always.
Go Johnny's tomorrow too. Let's go.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Take care, everybody.